talk more about this development in the ICC, we have with us Attorney Cristina Conti. Attorney, thank you for joining us once again here on our program.
Good morning, Angelo, Angela.
All right, Attorney, I know we've been talking about this for a long time, this issue about the interim release, but at least maybe you can explain to us and our viewers, what are the usual grounds for granting interim release in certain cases like this?
Well, one ground would be you are committed to proceed with trial and that you will not obstruct or hinder the trial. Another aspect would be why you need a release. And in most cases, their main claim is that the interim release is a right of the accused under international law. We agree with that on some points, but there are factors that mitigate against interim release. And essentially, we can collapse this into 3 points. 1, would you show up for trial? 2, would you not interfere or obstruct any of the proceedings? And 3, would you not continue to commit crimes or continue with the commission of the previous crimes? And these are the 3 major grounds of the prosecutor in opposing the interim release of Duterte. There's a 4th point which talks about risks, but essentially the discussion revolved around the main 3 points.
Right. Attorney, ako naman, I want to know your reaction to the recent statement of the prosecution regarding the requests of interim release by the Duterte's camp, knowing that they use yung mga words and actions ng mga Dutertes to block his release. Example, his rants, yung violence committed allegedly by his common law wife, Hanlet Advencenia, the statements regarding kidnappings. Your thoughts on that?
Well, as we've said, you cannot trust Duterte and his words. He says this, and he's been on record, caught on record on so many times saying violent activities or inciting to violence his supporters. And on the other hand, in this request, para siyang maamong tupa. Ngayon nabalatan na yon. And the prosecution has pointed that out clearly, squarely, that the words of Duterte would be inconsistent with his request for release. It's important also to point out that yung 3rd point about committing crimes, Duterte apparently said that when he sits in as mayor of Davao, the number of killings will double. So that's his hometown, that's his kingdom, fiefdom, so to speak. Doon niya sinimulan ang, kaya nga Davao Death Squad, kaya DDS. So doon niya sinimulan yon, and he said when he's going to return as mayor, he will double the killings. The prosecutor, tongue-in-cheek, points this out. The defenses, well, tingnan nyo ngayon sa Davao, wala namang namamatay, or konti lang yung namamatay. And the prosecutor says, well, precisely because Duterte is in jail and is not sitting as mayor of Davao. So for them, it's plenty clear. There's evidence militating, or there's evidence to oppose the warrant, the issuance of the granting of interim release against Duterte.
Attorney, I'd like to clarify something now. Who has or who is, let me rephrase, who is responsible for the safety of the main witnesses, not in victim witnesses but actual witnesses during this trial? The reason why I ask you this is because one point being raised is obstruction of justice possible, or tampering with the witnesses, or influence over witnesses, na baka si Duterte may influence. If it's in the Philippines, definitely meron siyang influence over that. But hindi ba pag baka erase yan, nasa protection ng ICC, so paano magkakaroon ng influence si PRRD, FPRRD sa mga witnesses?
The major unit that's in charge of the witnesses would be the Witnesses and Victims Unit. So actually, kung yung victim witness ay kakargohin na rin yon ng Victims and Witness Unit. Kasi classified na siya as a witness. Lahat ng witnesses technically under siya ng Office of the Prosecutor, or handled sila ng Office of the Prosecutor, pero may special unit for Witnesses and Victims Unit. Problem, they can only do as much as the states would allow them, meaning yung member states where these victims are.
Member states?
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, if the Philippines, I mean, if the witnesses were in the Philippines and we're not a member state, at the least, they would cooperate in terms of turnover, paglipat sa ibang bansa. Kaya, ang hirap, no? Kasi, sa totoo, ang
Yeah.
policy ng ICC sa witnesses, stay where you are. That's the least harm that you can do. Kasi 'di ba iba yung trauma ng namatayan ka na nga, alis ka pa ng
Yeah.
bahay mo, mawawalay ka pa dun sa ibang kapamilya. So from what I understand, their parang first approach, major approach is in country, if ever relocation, in country support or relocation. But if the Philippines is not a member state, then I would say that the ICC has taken out most of the witnesses and brought them to ICC member countries. And then also there's a problem with, I think, with even for myself, I look at this sometimes as parang yung victims or witnesses protection unit ng ibang bansa yung
Yeah.
nakikita sa TV,
Yeah.
where you are relocated, given you identities, etc. That's not possible with the ICC, because they can only provide protection. They cannot provide permanent, perpetual protection.
Yeah.
They can only do as much as the countries allow them. And in general, the protection is only for the scope of the trial. Kaya kung maalala natin, si Mato-Bato at si Las Cañas, si Las Cañas rather, nag-claim na ako, witness na ako ng ICC. And then he said he was offered only limited protection or limited immunity, because at that time, talagang hindi pa naman nagsisimula ang quote-unquote trial.
Yes.
Maski naman ngayon ang tawag pa lang natin ay preliminary or pre-trial proceedings. Kaya, kumbaga, limitado yung protection program. Kaya,
Okay.
talagang may chance pa itong Duterte camp. And
Influence.
I'm not just talking about Duterte himself. We're talking about his associates, which was heavily referenced in the document. The Duterte Death Squad, which could have splintered off. I don't know who their leader is now, pero they could have splinter groups, tapos kanya-kanya ng galawan, kanya-kanya ng pagtatago, kanya-kanya ng pag-operate.
Yeah.
Pwedeng ganon. And I would like to point out to the ICC as well, their supporters, which are out there everywhere and threatening,
Yeah.
sort of, and warning that they will camp out wherever they will find Duterte. And because we cannot vouch for all of them, hindi mo naman masasabi na, okay naman lahat ng yan. That's a security risk, additional security risk for the president, I would say.
Pero,
Given that in The Hague,
yeah.
the residents there have had experiences with this group. Hindi naman kasi sila, they're individual persons, and I don't know what they will do at one point or another.
What speaking of witnesses and victims, attorney, ano po ba yung pinaka-role ng victims when it comes to the ICC's assessment process? Are their voices legally weighed in, or at this point, ano lang po sila, symbolic lang sila dun sa proseso?
Thank you, Angela. Important yan kasi na-realize yan ng international courts na paano nga bang role ng victims? Liban sa magpatunay dun sa kaso or insidente. Pero sa kaso katulad nitong crimes against humanity, hindi mo kailangan na ipresenta ang 30,000, 7,000, etc. Kahit ilan lang mapapresenta. Sabi ng ICC in particular, we will allow them to raise their views and concerns. So ang kanilang mga pananaw at mga pag-aagam-agam during the proceedings. We can even give them time to, in some cases, cross-examine witnesses, even present witnesses. Kung sa Pilipinas, ang itsura kasi ng biktima, magpapatunay ng civil damages. Diba? May ganong aspect.
Yes.
So yung criminal, si prosecutor, isang team lang yan, prosecutor, tsaka kasama niya yung victims. Pero ipapatawag niya yung kaanak para patunayan, kano bang kinikita niyan? Ano bang nawala sa inyo? Magkano ba yung ginastos nyo?
Yeah.
Kahit itong kamag-anak, hindi nakita yung insidente. So here, it's something similar in the ICC, but more. Not only the civil damages or what happened to you, but also the pain, and their views and concerns as to particular incidents. Katulad nito, interim release, victims will be called to weigh in. It's important because for the ICC, they also look at this from the viewpoint of, and this is a term they use, that is, will all these be served in the interests of justice?
Yeah. But Attorney, I'd like to ask, no, kasi regarding the safety of the victims or the possible witnesses, kasi we all know that this case might take more than three years, 5, 7. Ang problema kasi, even though hindi credible or direct threat si FPRRD sa life nila after this administration na, okay, ngayon, sige, si PBBM admin may be on the side of the ICC, not directly. Ang problema, we have a presidential election looming with the daughter, VP Sara, who is bound to be a possible presidential. Ang fear ng iba is baka naman ibang matauhan bigla ang mga ibang witnesses na, o teka lang, palapit na ang eleksyon. Baka I should hold back my statement dahil yari ako. So what can now the Philippine government do, assuming na within 3 years baka mangyari ngayon to secure the lives of these witnesses? Could they be turned over voluntarily to another state or another country that is allied with the ICC or still with the ICC?
Yes, that could be a good suggestion. Ang problema nga lang, dapat papayag din talaga yung tao. Pero yung biktima, i-characterize ko din, not all of them have the capacity to live abroad. They don't have support systems. They don't have money. And they don't have, in some cases, they don't have the skills that are required by that country for migration or kung anuman. Kaya, ako ang nakikita ko lang is full cooperation with the ICC. And in fact, i-push na natin, why don't the Philippines join the ICC so that we are bound under our laws to cooperate fully with any investigation and pending proceedings. That option of, kumbaga, turning over or in a sense, ibibigay mo yung ibang tao, parang lalong nakikita ko na lalong mawawasak yung buhay ng tao eh.
Yeah.
When the main point with this trial, supposedly, is to repair the damage, allow them to live their lives as before, parang yung dati pa rin, nang meron lang dagdag na, kunyari, hindi ko nga masabing, danyos. Kasi pag danyos, parang binayaran mo yung buhay, hindi. Kailangan ito ay collectively we process. Tapos yung konsepto kasi ng crimes against humanity, hindi siya simpleng murder, 1, 2, 3. Ito ay collective na naganap. Kaya yung healing process hindi lang para sa biktima, kundi para rin dun sa mga nambiktima. And I would say that the Philippine government at this point, even without being a member of the ICC, has to proceed with domestic processes, prosecution, investigation, of small fish. Kung yung big fish, titirahin ng ICC, dapat dito, meron tayong programa o pagsilip man lang dun sa ginawa ng tinatawag nila na small fish. Kaya yun yung pangkalahatan na programa dapat for reparations in this case.
Attorney, lastly, kasi correct me if I'm wrong, what we are seeing right now is a request from the defense, tapos statement ng prosecution, pero wala pa talaga tayong decision from the ICC court itself. Ano po ba ang mangyayari yung sa proseso natin if the motion is denied? What could mean for the pace of the case? And let's say, for example, nag-grant yung yung request ng defense. Yung confirmation of charges that will be on September 23 is set in stone na po ba yun?
It's kind of set in stone. The only other factor that would affect that ay hindi itong interim release. So it will proceed whether nasa labas siya or nasa loob ng detention facility. But what would affect it would be anything that works on the merits of the case, which would be yung exchange of information nila, exchange of evidence. We're looking at 2 schedules. So July 1, that is the general disclosure deadline of the prosecution and defense. Ano yung mga ebidensya na meron kayo at ihaharap sa September, magpakitaan na kayo. Then July 4 is the release of the DCC, the document containing the charges. This is equivalent to our information or sakdal. Ito yung parang charge sheet. The document containing the charges will set forth what are the acts that will be attributed to Duterte. Right now, we're looking at murders, so extrajudicial killings. But the prosecutor could very well put back, remember that in their warrant of arrest, they are also alleged there were incidents of torture, incidents of rape. They could also add, remember that were thousands arrested. Imprisonment, it's also an act of crimes against humanity. So we're very, short of saying excited, we're waiting for that because that's what we will have to look at for the rest of the trial. So as early as July, we have that document. If we don't have that, baka yun yung factor para ma-push back yung September.
Quickly lang before I let you go, Attorney,
It's good to know.
I'd like to ask, meron pa bang susunod na warrants of arrest na tuloy pa ba daw ang kay Senator Bato and if possible, kailan daw?
Well, we would hope so. Yung kay Senator Bato, we had thought it would have been effected right after the arrest of Duterte. But kasi it's very obvious that he's a co-conspirator. But, well, we just have to be patient. Hopefully, the investigation into the Philippine situation is not yet over. It's not yet closed. Kaya tuloy-tuloy talaga yan hanggang malaman nila sino ang pinaka mga responsable. Hopefully after September, the prosecutor can get back to it. Kumbaga, in terms of prioritization, maybe now they're focusing on coming up with the DCC, the document. Then by September, they're preparing the charges. I would hope within the year, we'll have another arrest.
All right. We will continue to get in touch with you regarding this issue. But for the meantime, thank you, as always, for your insights, Attorney Cristina Conti.
Thank you very much. Ingat.